Someone said shrimp woman? Well, hello there, I'm Détroit, shrimp woman. Do I need to say more? I guess I do actually, since it's only the beginning of the video. Oh, and subscribe. So, shrimp woman, that's our theme for today. That's what we're gonna draw if you don't mind. Drawing a woman is nice because I like to draw curves and that's how you typically represent someone, but it's a bit boring. I've drawn a ton of characters and more recently I drew a few faces. Now I don't want to draw facial features anymore. I didn't take long in finding what to replace that woman's face with. Actually, since hands are hard to draw as well, let's not only swap a face but an entire torso with a shrimp. That's the story of how Shrimp Woman came to be. A female body with a gigantic shrimp on it. Finding references was easy enough. You can find thousands of pictures of the female body and especially the legs. For the shrimp part, it was easy too, although I couldn't find a good picture of the head at this angle that I want. I had to adapt to the references I did find, and that was easy enough. Talking about references, you can see that during the process I changed the legs a little bit. It's always hard to find a good pose for a character standing up. It needs to be interesting for the composition, but also to not look like a pose. What I mean is that it needs to be a realistic movement, not simply standing like a statue. I imagined the shrimp woman walking, and so I had to find a good picture at the right angle of the legs in movement, or at least close enough. Now let's talk about the art style a bit, alright? I couldn't really decide on what style to use for this artwork. In these cases, when I don't want to use a style in particular, I usually go back to my default style, which is inking after the sketch, then flats, then shading with a soft brush. Now that I'm saying this out loud after the fact, I realize it's also been a while since I used cel shading on something, but I didn't think about it at the time. And it's alright because I quite like the finished piece I made for today. Anyway, after the sketch, I decided to ink. For that, I chose my usual inking brush, but with a rather small size. I really like that brush. The texture is nice, the line art results more interesting with it, I think. I use the same inking brush in like 9 drawings out of 10 for the digital drawings I do ink. The line art for the inking is rather loose. I don't even bother closing the lines sometimes. Because I don't know how the style will be at the end of the drawing, I don't want to pay too much attention to it, and it's also easier. For example, drawing feet is something I hate and I'm really bad at, so leaving the feet with only a few lines is nice enough. On the other hand, I put a lot of attention on the curves and how I draw them. You only need to slightly mess up one curve to make the whole drawing look bad. I'm talking for example about the leg. Below the knee, the outline of the leg curves one way and the other multiple times, but the amplitude of the variation and how far along the leg it is are crucial. As we are all humans, we're used to seeing other humans, and we are intrinsically familiar with how the human body should look. This is why the slightest deviation from the usual becomes strange. It's like a song. If there's a wrong note, you hear it, whereas if all the notes are right, you don't even think about it. After the line art of the character is when I decided to add a background. There is 2 reasons for that. I've done a few drawings without backgrounds recently, so I wanted to change. Having a background that's simple but not just a gradient or a uniform tone, the drawing becomes a scene. It's not just a character design in the middle of the void. It tells a story. As you can probably tell from the umbrella, the bikini bottoms and the bucket, Shrimp Woman is at the beach. Now, for a more technical point of view, the second reason why I made a background, and also why I colored it first. As soon as you want to include your character design in a scene, I highly recommend you to draw the background first. This is to avoid a problem I've had too many times, including recently with my robot samurai design story. A character on a white background will look differently. If you want your values to be coherent overall, you need to plan ahead when it comes to lighting and shading. Having the background first grounds the character in a coherent setting. If the background is very saturated, the character can't be too grayed out, for example. Similarly, on a white background, you tend to color a character darker than it should be. For a day at the beach, I can't really draw the sand too dark just to go with the character. And fixing a complete rendering to match a background is really a pain in the ass. So with the sand and the sky colored behind the line work, now I have a good idea of how to shade Shrimp Woman. If needs be, I can still tweak the background a bit later and make it more interesting then. The goal is just to have a good idea of your values, saturations, and tones, i.e. the colors of the background. I won't delve too deep into the character shading. I've done the same kind of thing 1,000 times. Go check out last week's Demon Girl, or the Twin Portraits, or any other digital drawing video in which I drew a character. What I want to talk about instead is the style. Now we are reaching the point where I finally figured out what I wanted to do with this piece. In retrospect, I should have realized sooner, and I would have made the flats a bit differently. During the actual shading, I was still debating the idea and, well, you'll see. The background design actually gave me the idea. I wanted to do a lineless drawing. That means getting rid of the line art. I still shaded and colored everything with the line art on because it's much more convenient since I already have it at hand, but at the end I will remove it. There are a few things wrong with this process in order to end up with a lineless digital painting. I made the flats with the lines on. The problem with that is that behind the black ink, I don't know exactly where the flats layer ends. That means that when I remove the black ink, all of the outlines of every shape will be wonky. From afar, it doesn't look that bad, but when you look at it a bit closer, it's a bit lazy looking. A way to compensate for that would be to select the line art pixels and erase that selection from the flats. Then the outlines would be alright. But what about the inlines? Or I guess the outlines of the shapes that are inside the bigger shapes, like the bikini lines. If I erase everything that's under the ink, it will also erase these. I can't keep the lines only when they're inside the shape, that will look strange and bad. Should I color the lines the same as what's behind it? Maybe. How do I do that? It might be possible with the layer style, but I personally don't know how. If I use a layer style, I will probably end up seeing the edge of each colored flats under the line art, and again, that edge isn't perfect. The way our eyes see the black line, we basically immediately admit that the middle of the black line is where one half stops and the other begins. But if I color the entire line of, let's say, the bikini bottoms, as our example again, if I color it yellow entirely, then it will look bigger in comparison to the belly and the legs, and that's not what I want. That's not the size I wanted to draw it in. Do you see the kinds of problem I'm now facing? This is why I should have decided on a lineless drawing when I was making the flats. I would have paid more attention to the edges of each layer of the flats. Oh, and I forgot, if I color the line art by hand, I basically have to redo all the shading that's near the black line. I can't leave a line of unshaded yellow when the bulk of the bikini bottoms are shaded, so that would take a lot of work. When I removed the ink, I also saw that some parts were not very easy to see, like the two thighs that were blending with each other too much, or the different sections of the shrimp body. So I simply added a bit of a stronger shading in these areas, just to help your eyes see what's there. Anyway, just so that you're aware of the kind of problems that can arise, and that did arise in this case. When I eventually removed the black ink layer, some parts of the things below were not even colored. I only tweaked the parts that were more obvious, like near the buckets. Some of the parts, like the umbrella, I actually liked. You know what? This drawing is finished anyway. I'll put up the picture and zoom on a few parts that look kinda bad. You'll see what I mean. Don't worry, after that I will show the entire drawing like I usually do. Also, like I usually do, I should remind you to like the video and leave a comment if you want to. Don't be just numbers of views. Show that you are human and take this opportunity to chat with me. If you're a shrimp, do that too. And if you're half shrimp, half human, then this video was just for you. Subscribe for more videos twice a week and I'll see you at the beach. Bye!